There's a microphone in your bum.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Chani.
How are you?
I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be here, too.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to learn more about myself through your eyes. Your description of the book was astounding. You have such a way with words. It is incredible. If I could write like that, I wouldn't have needed so many pictures in the book. But, we work with what we have.
Okay, I'm so excited to be speaking with you about this book. Everyone, you have to leave with 15 copies. Okay. Everyone, literally especially all the straight people in your life, you just need to get them this book. It has everything, every answer to every question they've ever had about anything to do with anything about us. So just buy a lot of them and hand them out just randomly on the street. That's my main aim for tonight, my agenda. Okay, it feels like this book is eerily timed. This moment. The last time I checked, 49 states have proposed anti-trans bills, 558 bills were introduced this year, 82 have passed, 365 are active, 111 have failed, blah, 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 blah. It's legal in Montana for drag queens to read to children in public schools or in libraries. There are 41% of titles challenged or banned books have content relating to LGBTQIA identities and themes. So, a couple questions. Did you, when you were writing this, did you foresee some of that? And was this a way of responding to the thing as it was coming? Or is this just an odd kind of pairing up and a kind of psychic response to all of the evils at play?
A little bit of both, because some of this has existed. The backlash against drag has been brewing for a while, and of course, the negative connection of all forms of queer expression, kind of lumping everything together, really as part of fears not around what happens on stages, but around queer expression in real life, trans people living their lives, non-binary people living their lives. And so using drag to kind of foment further fears based on the most superficial aspects. Yeah. That had started, maybe it has never really ended, yeah. But the way that it became this huge movement and the way that many conservatives were able to rally all this energy around it. People care about this issue more than any other issue. This is something growing up in the Midwest I'm familiar with from being a child. It's people who vote after only one issue, just to oppose women's reproductive freedoms, for example, right. Just about immigration. So the way that drag has now become part of that, it's visibility for drag for the first time. I didn't even know about drag when I was a child, and now children are learning about it. But it was interesting as more of this rhetoric started happening, trying to build in an antidote to that misinformation in the book itself. And I kept editing. You can't, if I could put everything in there, I would have.
I mean, you really almost did. This is it doesn't look, but everything is in here. It's it's an amazing, it felt like if we put everybody together and everyone was like, oh, I know this little piece of queer history, or I know this little piece of drag. And I heard this story once, and the book is as if we all got together and told all of those stories, and now they're all in one place, and you can it's a gorgeous reference book for all of that.
That reminds me of your book a little bit, because I remember hearing one interview where you said, you have to give the same introductory information over and over again, and it's that needs to just be a resource.
Yeah.
If you keep explaining these the introduction to what it even is that we're talking about, that should be a resource that people have access to.
Yeah.
So I'm joining you on that mission.
Yeah. What would it have been like to have this book as a child?
Just a jumping off place to discover so much context. I think discovering that you're not alone, that there's this context that you can uphold traditions with your life that aren't necessarily the ones that you were raised with, but that you can discover and respect, that is so empowering. Yeah. And makes you excited about life.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I would have been a young drag queen, and then, My knees would still support all this.
Okay, one of the things that I was also really excited about as an astrologer, so this is, I think everybody here knows what astrology is. I don't really have to explain it, but it's a snapshot of the sky when you were born. And it has all of these incredible archetypes in it. And what's really fascinating to me is when people don't know that. Like, I kind of like the retroactive look, so that if you don't know what it is and you just go and live your life, and then someone like me comes along and is like, oh my God, isn't that fascinating? Because this is the chart, and this is what you did, and they are mirror images of each other. And so when I looked at Sasha's chart and then I was reading the book simultaneously, it was like a gold mine. And it made it so exciting to open up the book and see that the first chapter of the book was called Ritual. And you open the book by talking about how drag is and has always been everywhere, not even really hiding in plain sight, and how shamans and shamanism, indigenous practices, have always inhabited multi-gendered spaces. You remind us that many traditional spiritual practices the world over transcend binaries, in part to occupy a liminal space. Shamans exist between realities, between the material, the spiritual, between masculine and feminine, between humanity and divinity, translating messages from the other world, from other states of consciousness, with the intent to heal, which is what drag is and what drag does, especially in a culture hell-bent on making it illegal. And so the reason why this is so fascinating, this is the opening of the book, right? And so when we look at Sasha's chart, which we will in 1 second, go. Okay, hold your opinions. All right.
Getting ahead.
She put herself up here. Be nice. Okay. Isn't it beautiful? Okay. So look how many planets and things are in the 9th house. You see the number 9 there? Okay, each of these numbers is a house. It's a domain of life. What I'm interested in as an astrologer, I know you guys are like, ooh, the signs. Okay, fine. But what I'm interested in as an astrologer is, where is the sun? Because that is our identity. Where is the moon? Because that is how we live out our identity in our body, in the physical realm. Those are the 2 luminaries. Wherever they are, your life purpose in living it out depends on you understanding that realm of life. And then there's the planet that rules the sign that's rising up over the eastern horizon. So everything rises up this way, and it culminates up at the top of the chart, and then it descends. And so anything that's rising up is really, really prominent, and so that's where we get the rising sign from. It's the sign that's rising up over the eastern horizon. And that tells us about the motivation for the person's life and what they might want to be known for. And the planet that rules that sign becomes the planet that drives the ship of the life. So if you've got like a planet that's at the helm, it's going to do something, it's going to get you somewhere. So the planet that rules Scorpio in the traditional system, don't at me about modern astrology, is Mars. And so Mars, the sun, and the moon are all in the 9th house. And the 9th house is the house of God. It is the house of spirituality. It is the house of religion. It is the house of teaching and academia. It is the house that represents the pursuit of truth. It is about traveling. It is about moving into the world. It is about publishing. And it's about asking those big questions. And so we see your sun, your moon, and Mars all in the place that we would consider the place of ritual. This is the place where you have a spiritual experience, and the only way to have a spiritual experience is through doing the spiritual ritual, or having, sometimes you get lucky and whatever just hits you over the head and you're like, oh my God, I love life. But generally, you have to kind of do the ritual, right? So this chart is the chart of someone who is a philosopher, or someone who is named after a philosopher.
Indeed.
Someone who's known for their ideas, for their concepts, and someone who is probably a huge nerd.
It's very accurate. Wow.
So the fact that you opened up with ritual, the book there, I was like, yes, this is where we're starting. This is what I love. This is also the place of priestessing, I think, right? Like this is where you would find someone with that much emphasis would be performing some kind of something, right? Some kind of like learning ritual, spiritual ritual, some kind of experience for the group to have a connection to something bigger than themselves. So can you tell me a little bit about the power of drag as a communal and personal spiritual practice and ritual?
Yes. I mean, I think it starts out really personal for most people. And for me, that was certainly the case. It was like a part of myself that I had been afraid to access and needed the ritual of the makeup and the costumes and the performance to give myself permission to explore aspects of my persona or even my like physical body that I hadn't felt like I could access before. And then like I think you learn about yourself by putting on drag. You learn that's the reveal to me that you discover there's true things in the fantasy. And doing drag helped me connect to my non-binary identity and even understand what that might look like or feel like. And then it became more about community, doing the act of drag, because the best part of drag, the magic of drag, I always say, is like it's not complete without the audience. You can dress up and have the ritual in your room and feel a certain bit of transformation, but to join with people and to take part in this tradition, it feels like a ancient practice to me of watching someone on a stage communicate their emotions and cheering that on, or responding, or gasping, or crying, and experiencing that collectively, brings people together and makes people listen in new ways to each other, to these human stories. And I think there's a kind of alchemy that happens on stage with drag. And then very literally, we talk about issues in the world at a drag show and backstage of a drag show. So there's community action happening on every level with drag. But yeah, there's still always the personal component too of like, turn yourself into something that you can believe is worth paying attention to. Because we don't always feel like that as humans. So maybe you need the ritual to get there.
It's beautiful. We have, okay. Well, actually, I wanted to just pull this one quote. So on Drag Race, you said, "My edge is that my drag is serious and analytical. It has a bit of philosophy and politics." Why are you shaking your head?
Youthful statement.
I think it was kind of teased out.
Yeah, they definitely
seemed
got
produced.
me there. It was produced.
But I also thought,
Yeah,
like,
people hate that out in America, you know.
In America.
Seriousness.
Yes.
But
Yeah. But I thought it was such a symbol of someone with so much emphasis on the ninth house that, of course, it had to be something that was thoughtful and analytical and political. So I just wanted to validate that for you.
Thank you. It is there. It is there. I've just learned not to refer to it.
Okay, let's go. Okay, so if you go to your Scorpio rising, then and we talk about Mars. Mars is the red planet.
I love red.
Oh. Go back one.
It's my favorite color.
Yeah, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so Sasha is ruled by one of the strongest planets in her chart is the red planet. And her Mars is not only strong because it's the ruler of her ascendant, so it's telling us that this is the planet that's going to steer. It's also strong because when she was born, I mean, she's got a really special chart, but the Mars in the sky was really, really bright. So she was born when the sun was in the sky, but that night it set. And Mercury was really bright, the planet of communication. Venus was bright in the morning, but Mars and Mercury were really bright at night. And it's a special kind of condition that astrologers pay attention to. And the other piece about Sasha's Mars that makes it so interesting is that it's in the sign opposite from what it would be allotted for. So Mars is the warrior, Mars is the heroine, Mars is the sword, Mars severs, Mars is rage, Mars is fury, Mars is our ability to like go forth and get what we want. And in Cancer, it's a little moody, but it's also a sign of something that is contrary. So you're ruled by a planet that's gotta like cut, right? It's gotta make an incision somewhere. It's gotta make a mark. That's just what a sword does, right? It's able to like say, okay, this is the thing and this is not the thing. So it's able to be very concise, but it's also gotta be defining all the time. And so it's going to, at some point, make people go, ouch, what did you do? Like, why do you have to be so pointed? Why such an arch to those eyebrows? And in the sign opposite to where it is, gets held up on high, it's called being in its fall. So it's kind of like the anti-heroine.
Ooh.
It's kind of like a warrior, like a mother warrior in a sense. So it's, in Cancer, it's trying to like build family and care about everybody, but it's still Mars and it's still got to go to war. So it's like, it's got this like strangeness to it. And so it's going to be known for, or it says that it's a chart that's going to be known for doing something that is red and is definitely going to be passionate. But it's going to, even in spaces that are deemed not centered, it's still got to be contrary there. So does that resonate for you at all?
Yeah, I feel like in my offstage persona especially, or the conflict sometimes between different aspects of ourselves that we try to make sense of.
Yeah.
Like I think I do have a sharp side, but I try to not express it like that ever. Turn it into art, turn it into passion.
Yeah, I think we see it.
Yeah.
But I think even, like, not to go back too much to Drag Race, but I think even there you were known as the different one, right? Mm-hmm. There was something unique about you, or there was a way in which you were entering into the art form in a different way. And so there's this contrary nature to you that's actually really on your side, I would say.
And like a stubbornness about being that way, right? Is that in the chart?
It's your job.
Yeah.
Like you've got to do things in a way that's against the grain in the ninth house realm. So it's in terms of what you publish, and it's in terms of the rituals that you put on, and it's in terms of what it is you're making meaning out of. So you might, it's in the ninth house of publishing, so you might publish a book that reveals the history of those that go against the grain.
Right. I love it.
Something like that, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Supposed to write a memoir also.
Oh, yeah.
And it ended up
being the history of everything.
Also, yes.
And then your Mars is also conjunct this fixed star named Pollux. And Pollux is one of the twins, and the twins are known as like good and evil. But there's this really, really beautiful quote that Thea pulled for me from Bernadette Brady. And it says that this fixed star, so there's planets move and then the fixed stars stay, right? So any planet that's around a fixed star has like a special kind of energy to it. And the energy is usually kind of like powerful and caustic. Like it's like something that you really have to be very careful with because it's got such potency to it. And so your Mars is near Pollux, which is supposed to be like the bad twin. So we... Don't fear. Okay. But the two of them together, what Bernadette says is about successful storytelling by one who has knowledge of mixing good and evil, overlapping them until both are changed and whole. Castor and Pollux, these two stars, are about the blending of opposites, the recognition of opposites, the building of bridges between them. So as the planet or theme that steers the ship of your life in a conjunction with this, star, I'm wondering about even the teachers in your life that helped you to hold space for or honor the blending of those opposites? Did you have anybody in your life that did that, or did you just kind of come in with that sense?
I think it was a little bit just self-discovered. I mean, my parents were both very intellectual and encouraged me to see complexity. And we were talking backstage about our Jewish backgrounds, and I found like Judaism, especially like the kind I learned from my grandma, was full of gray zones and things not being black or white or good and evil. But I also always had a personal draw towards evil figures in media, and I know that's like a kind of queer condition for a whole bunch of reasons.
A sort of credit card, if you will.
Exactly. And maybe it's because they're like, drawn to look like us, styled with certain recognizable flares. But like discovering the joy of becoming like the Wicked Witch of the West as the little kid, or Dracula.
Yes.
And then painting them as the hero in my stories and seeing them being attacked or mistreated or misrepresented. Kind of maybe that practice taught me some ambiguity, and I definitely paint like an evil character. But I think I don't act like one, I hope.
So the person with everything in Cancer.
Just stand and walk.
Really nice. I'll bake you cookies. Okay.
It's just the shell.
It's just the Scorpio rising.
Yeah. Don't mind the claws. Yeah.
So I love this entrance into demons and witches and goblins and all kinds of spirits, because the fascinating thing about Sasha's Mars is it's conjunct this point in space that we call Black Moon Lilith.
New drag name unlocked.
Yes. And oddly, last time I was at 92Y, I was on stage with somebody else who had a really prominent Lilith. Anyways, it's a whole thing with me and this building and Lilith, but now you're here in it with me. So Lilith appears in many different contexts. She's a figure that we can look way back pre-Judaism, but definitely she's all through Judaism. She's in Talmud and Zohar, in the alphabet of Ben Sirah. So she's like all over, and there's different iterations, and she's hard to find and hard to place. But she's even before that. She's in Inanna's garden, a Sumerian goddess. She is the handmaiden to Inanna. My teacher, Demetra George, talks about the fact that in the cuneiform tablets that they first find her name, Lilith is the handmaiden of Inanna, and so Inanna is the star Venus in the sky, what we know as the planet now. But Lilith would go out and gather the people when Inanna was really bright in the sky and bring them to Inanna's temple so that they could have sexual ritual, obviously. Enter patriarchy. Didn't like that so much. So then Lilith becomes this bad spirit in a tree. And she has a snake. There's a snake coiled at the bottom of the hulupu tree, and then there's Lilith in the tree, and then there's the bird in the top of the tree. The Zulu bird, I think. And it's like the triple goddess, we could say, or Lilith becomes the intermediary between the earth and heaven. But what happens is Gilgamesh comes, like solar hero dude, and chops down the tree, and Lilith flees into the wilderness. She flees into the desert. And then we fast forward into the Jewish versions of the myth. We find Lilith as, do you know Lilith?
Yes, I love Lilith.
So Lilith is conjunct your Mars.
I did not know that. I had her in my chart.
Okay, so interject anytime. We fast forward into the Jewish myths, and there's a lot of different things and places, but just to make it succinct, she's supposedly the first wife of Adam because of a discrepancy in the texts. And so they say they got together, God made them at the same time, not from his rib, at the same time, from the earth. It's also related to a way in which saying that when Adam was created, Adamah was created in their image, saying that like God wasn't male. And so there's all of these ways in which it's rooted into a lot of like non-binary ways of understanding God. So Lilith comes, they hang out, they start arguing, they're arguing over how to name things and then they go to fuck, and they don't agree on who should be on top. Lilith wants to be on top. And Adam's like, no.
This is fantastic.
This is like a rabbinic tale. It's for all of it. So the Lilith is like, I'm going to be on top, and Adam's like, no, and she's like, why? You got to be like that. And he's like, because you are beneath me, I'm above you. And he was like, you're not equal to me. And she was like, dude, we were made at the same time. I was there when you were made. Like, we came up. And so they have this argument, and God is like, affirming this situation. And so what Lilith does is she says God's secret name. She calls God out, and she says to both of you, I'm out of here. And she leaves. She doesn't get exiled, she exiles herself. And so then what happens in other parts of different myths, again, I'm really, boiling it down. She goes out into the desert and she meditates in a cave. And Adam starts whining to God. He's like, what do you mean that she left? And he's like, okay. And he sends his angels out to go get her. And she's like, fuck y'all. No, unless I'm equal, I'm not coming back. And so she exists out in the desert. She refuses the garden. It is too small for her. These men are foolish. They do not understand her power. She's rejected for her sexuality and for her wildness. She is absolutely untamable. But God doesn't try to wipe her out. He can't. She exists. She is made of creation. So she is the force of wild, untamable, sexual power and potency that cannot exist inside of a patriarchal bubble.
Wow.
And so she hangs out in the desert and she spawns demon babies.
That's right.
And if your husband sleeps alone, she gives him wet dreams.
Oh.
And then she takes the semen and she spawns more demon babies.
Oh, yes, queen.
She's very busy. And it's obviously a whole story, a warning about going outside of the existing agreement of the center, right? It's the narrative of what we do here, and you get everything, you get comfort, you get to rely on this whole thing, but you got to do the thing. You got to be subservient. And so she says no, and she exists on her own, and then there's all these myths about her being God's consort and Samuel's consort, and Shekhinah and her swap places. It's very kinky, it's very orgastic in its own way. But Lilith is the night, right? Her Lilith, Lila is the Hebrew word for night, but also Lily too is I think Aramaic word for demon. So she's a night demon. She is the wind, and she's also what we call the screech owl. So I don't know if you've ever entered any place screaming.
What?
Demon queen.
I love it.
So Lilith is co-pilot of your life.
Wow. And then, so for my crowned returning on season 10, I actually consciously created a Lilith look with a snake.
Okay.
Do you have
Can you keep going?
Oh, you do have that?
So
yeah,
this is a very obviously whitewashed version of Lilith, but so this is a painting of a Lilith, and then we have clickers maybe working.
Maybe blocking it. Yes. So I was going for, a Lilith Eve combo because I knew people would read it as Eve, but in my mind, this was Lilith, and I don't know if there's any apple in Lilith's version, but I did have an apple that I rolled at RuPaul's feet. It's I've tasted freedom. You can have this back.
Well, I and many other feminist thinkers and mythologists think that Lilith comes back to the garden as the snake.
Ooh.
And says, hey, Eve, these
Here's some
motherfuckers
knowledge.
will not.
Right.
You can't stay here.
Yeah.
You need to get conscious and free, and the only way to do that is to go out into the wilderness and suffer a little
Wow.
and wake up. So I think here you're both,
Yeah.
right? The one, the awakener, and the one that is being awoken.
Wow.
Okay, bye. The big reveal.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
So as Lilith, as the co-pilot of your life, and like Lilith is very Marsian nature, right? She's like, fuck this, I'm out. Like that's a Mars kind of statement. And you have it in the 9th house of this priestessing or creating a kind of experience for people, also in publishing. Okay, I have a lot to say. Okay, so we've got your Mars in this situation that is like super potent and powerful. It's in a contrary kind of, it has a contrary tone, but Lilith is the contrarian. So as somebody with this, you appear to be well suited for the job of calling the patriarchy by its name. But, you're a Cancer and you want to also be, affirming and caring and So is this a skill that you had to develop, or who or what helped you to do that?
Which part?
Well, I say calling patriarchy,
Balancing
but the cool thing about having Lilith in the 9th house is it is the house of God, and Lilith is there.
Yeah.
So Lilith was in God's house in a sense in Eden, and then so it's a mark. I might also have Lilith in the 9th house, but it's a mark of wanting to say like that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That does not work for me, and I actually can't exist within this situation that is too small for me, or diminishes me, or demands that I subjugate myself in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that came naturally. Like that was like just how I looked at things always, and I had a lot of conflicts when I was like a teenager with all forms of authority and other people. And I do feel like something about becoming a priestess through drag, which is like in a different universe. I mean, prior to theater,
we'd both be rabbis.
Artists, we would be putting on shows. It's like, okay, I'm just channeling the divine in one way or another. There's like a way that sometimes I feel like you can go harder on the world through metaphor and through art, and people sometimes can receive it in this new way, or it lingers with them and doesn't just become like a sound bite, but like a visual and an emotional feeling.
Yeah.
So like the softness and the making people happy combined with trying to rip the world apart and rebuild it with better knowledge and better care.
It feels very clear
together.
to me.
It does. And like learning about these traditions, learning about how in like the 60s, early queer activists like Jose Sarria in San Francisco and Sylvia Rivera in New York, and of course many others that are
Sylvia was a Cancer.
Oh, yes. Wow.
Yeah. And you can see it, you can hear
Yeah.
it in her language. She cares so much. And that's her activism. It comes from a place. And she builds family wherever she goes.
Yeah.
And that's what Cancer does. So I think a lot, and I thought about this a lot with your book, and you speak about it in regards to fame and your experience of it. But in your book, you remind us and you detail how in many cultures the world over, especially in indigenous cultures, that being on the outskirts, like being in the cave on the outskirts of town, being the one that goes to these places that are not in the center, they're more on the margins, that is something that is normal. And that is something that can exist in a harmonious kind of relationship, or it's a necessary kind of relationship, because as the margin gets pushed out, then the center actually can move, right? These two things are in relationship with each other. But in this moment, in heterosis normative patriarchal colonialism, that margin is a place of death and humiliation and destruction and violence and terror. And so when I was reading your book, I'm always thinking about these spaces that we need to, and I think for the health of our society and for our own psyche, that this is something that is necessary, and that it's been perverted into this place of, again, like degradation and fear and violence. And in the book, you do such a beautiful job of kind of bringing us back to that. And when you talk about what you came to understand about fame, and wait, I've got quotes. Hold on. There was something that was, so you speak about the experience of being accepted of celebrity and the emptiness that you experienced amidst it all. So this is like a kind of compilation of some of your quotes. Gaining mainstream recognition has its clear advantages, and it seems pretty harmless on the surface. Who doesn't want institutional respect and higher booking rates? But do we really want to be at the center of everything? In truth, nothing is less self-aware than thinking any of us can really be individuals. No amount of self-determination can give us freedom. We have to keep fighting collectively for it, we queers. Once we achieve some kind of cultural power, how can we stay true to this mission? How do we avoid becoming gatekeepers of similar opportunities for others? And so yeah. I thought that was so like Lilith having the experience of the garden being like, oh my God, come! We got applesauce and things. And then like going and being like, this is gross. I have a stomach ache. Do you have any new ideas about that question? Or any new questions? You don't have to answer it, but.
Yeah, are you struggling with this too? It's like, it's interesting to become well known for something.
I find it, not to quote Michelle Obama, but
do.
You know what she said, like I've been in rooms with the most powerful, supposedly smartest people in the room, and smartest people in the world, and they're not. So there's moments that I've had where I've experienced being like led into spaces, and it being a wild experience of realizing that it was a mirage. And that's an obvious thing, but it's a different thing, I think, to experience it. Or to be in spaces with people or situations or institutions that you've, had some regard for, what have you. And it's different close up. A lot of things are very different. And so I always think, how do we stay radical? How do we stay in community? How do we stay working in a like horizontal kind of way? How do we do that and fulfill our own desire and our own like ambition and our own creative like thing that propels us forward all the time? Because mine is kind of monstrous at times. And so it makes me do this thing that can feel quite individual, but it's really collective experience and power that I want. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always trying to find those ways to bring those two things together, to like let that beast in me do its thing, but to also have it be about like, how do we actually enact change collectively, and how do we stay connected to those things that are true? Because once power and money come in, it gets weird really quickly.
Yeah. My answer to that has continued to be like hosting a drag show like Nightgowns, and like actively cultivating like a space that is not like an institutional space in itself, is something outside that can still have visibility and power, but is like existing within the community.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, nice. And I don't know if that's the answer, but I think we're able to do really cool things that give up-and-coming performers a chance to try something on a stage and feel like they have people's attention, which is such a gift. And then we raise money as well for housing and for food insecurities in this city, which it's like, that to me is the core of what drag is supposed to be doing.
Yes. Yeah. We do,
It's a long process.
We do something, yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We keep mutual aid at the core of our company and a lot of different partnerships with a lot of different people. So I think that that's the way that I try to do it.
Right.
But
we kind of have to play a game sometimes,
Yeah.
I feel like, with the smoke and mirrors of it all.
Yes.
Because, like, it is a world of appearances.
it is.
And so, like, drag teaches you how to play into that.
Yeah.
That's like what I look to RuPaul for inspiration for, especially, is how you play this game of using all the tools that are out there to bring attention to something that you believe in.
Yeah.
And it has a bit of a dark side to it. Like,
Yeah.
but
Has it been hard
can
as
be
a Cancer?
positive.
To
Just
like to like have that, to have a tougher skin, or has that been something that has come easier to you?
I do think I had a pretty tough shell to begin with, but it's gotten tougher.
Good for you.
Yes. For better or for worse.
Well, we have 20 minutes left. We've got some questions from the audience, but Thea, will you go through a couple of the next slides? I want to, so a little demon love here. And then, yeah, so Lilith was also the winged one. So she had taloned feet and hairy legs and wings and a screeching voice.
Oh, I love those.
And then we've got, yes. So this is Gollum.
Demons are really important to me.
Yeah.
This is Gollum.
Yeah, and so also
Lord of the
like
Rings.
the myth of Lilith is that she spawned thousands of demon babies.
Wow.
She was very prolific. So every time you have this kind of like different demon-esque vibe, you can be like, oh, an ode to.
Gosh, and I feel like when I performed this number all over the world, and I feel like it did help contribute to the new wave of like monster ear wearing drag demons that are very prominent now. Like I used to never go out without my demon ears. But.
See, and you have all this stuff in Cancer,
Now my
which is all about
babies,
like, the mothering, the babies. Next one. And then Lilith as the demon, as the spirit in the Halupo tree.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Sasha and I were talking backstage. I just took a course with a brilliant teacher, Sarah, I forget her last name, I'm sorry, about Jewish demons and protection. And we had a long conversations over many classes about the fact that in Judaism, demons were not deemed as bad. That is a Christian thing. That is something that was put on the word or on the energy itself, afterwards. That in Judaism, demons are just seen as part of life. They're just spirits. They're just part of the energetic realm, and they're made by God. God is them. They are God. And so there's like a lot more multiplicity. There's a lot more duality. There's a lot more non-binary-ness to the kind of good and evilness, even though Lilith was pretty shamed and pretty demonized. Because, you can look in a lot of different, over the Jewish diaspora, there's tons of different types of amulets that ward Lilith away from the babies because she was a baby killer. It was also a response to having to try to explain away something that was so horrendous to experience as the death of a baby. And so, it's like there's a lot of stuff. She became the repository for all of our ungrieved, misunderstood, plus all the patriarchal kind of violence that was coming in. And so whenever we are walking with her, whenever we're embodying her, or when we have a life that is co-piloted by her, we're also, part of it is about being like, okay, well, this is all of, and you're Scorpio rising too, so that's just kind of a natural thing. It's like, this is all the shit that like society doesn't want to deal with, so what am I going to do with it? And you turn it into art. And so what, we want to like put all, the center wants to put all the stuff on these people or archetypes or places and just like shut it away. But then the job is to say, okay, here's all the garbage, and like here's all the stuff that you tried to throw away, and this is how fantastic and horrific and beautiful and amazing and powerful it is. So when we reclaim Lilith, we reclaim our power.
Wow.
And I think that's the testament to the work you've done here and the work you do here. And I also want to say that as someone with so much Cancer in their chart and also a Scorpio rising, so we've got like water, like a lot of water, a lot of water. And water's very sensitive and water's very emotional. It's got a lot of feelings. I'm trying to set something up. Someone with a lot of water is going to... Okay, but like, to be known worldwide for singing, I get so emotional when you have everything in Cancer, and Scorpio's kind of wild.
Wow. This is my Scorpio number to me, actually.
Is it?
Yeah. I know it's like a very good Cancer,
Yeah.
but it's so feisty and like
Yes.
like tearing apart a rose like the second you step on stage to me is very like vengeful.
Yes, Mars.
And I was channeling that, and
Yeah.
it's all in red.
Yes.
Wow.
So wait, you knew this song was coming? I don't know how this
I knew
show
it was
works.
going to be either that song or Stronger by Britney Spears, which
Also
is its
would have
own
worked.
kind of, that would have worked too.
Yeah. Okay. I loved that as an ode to all the water in your chart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, all your Cancer stuff is being opposed by Neptune. And Neptune is the planet that was discovered as film was being made. So we associate it with illusions and film and anything that's about projecting an image.
I'm gagged.
And so it's like exactly opposing your sun, but it's opposing all that stuff in Cancer. But the sun is one's identity. So, I don't know if you have been known for illusions, but also art, right? Like there is beautiful illustrations in here. And then also, this isn't the only thing that you've published. You have Velour.
Yeah, it's on myself.
Go back that one. Okay, Velour magazine. And all of the gorgeous art that is there, you created.
The magazine features lots of artists
Yes.
from the community that I
Yeah.
edited
Okay.
together.
Okay. Time's up. But I also want to go back. Can you go back one to also just the cover. So Sasha has...
Water marbling.
It's what?
It's water marbled. Like
Yes.
those are paints
Oh, yes,
floating
yes,
in
yes.
water.
Love.
Yes.
But also, you're a Cancer, and you're born, so Sasha was born right before a new moon. So we call that a balsamic moon. It is at the end of a lunar cycle. So oftentimes, when people are born at that moment, before it's new, it's said that they come in with their own ideas and their own agenda, because they're coming at the end of the cycle, and they're like, you can't tell me anything. I have done the whole thing. I'm here to finish up this last little piece. So it's like you come in with all of that, and you're like here to do something very specific and kind of wrap up a lot of stuff. But also, you have a dark moon on your head.
Yeah.
Born dark moon phase, black moon Lilith,
Wow.
conjunct your Mars. So we like that. And then the next slides are this smoke and mirrors, if anything, is like a Neptunian signature.
Yeah. Wow.
Illusions, smoke and
Full
mirrors.
of
love.
video projectors,
Yes.
literally.
Yes.
Yes.
Amazing. And then your art. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. I think it's time to take some. Do you have any? Does any of that resonate?
I think so.
Well, I'll also say something quick about this. You've got a very bright Venus. It's a morning star, and it's sitting with Vesta and Chiron, and also there's an asteroid Lilith as well as a point in space, and so Lilith is also with your Venus. Venus rules women and femmes and queer folks and non-binary folks, and you've got it with Vesta, which means that you're very dedicated to it. With Chiron, it's about Lizzo also has that, so it's about revealing the pain embodied in like patriarchal society when we're, femmes and all of that. But it's in the 8th house of like hidden, mysterious things. And so I also find it a beautiful reflection of the, next slide, nightgowns. That's also a little Lilith.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so did it resonate?
Thank you for this. Oh my gosh, yeah. To discover that these, like, especially the Lilith connection, that this figure, I need to learn more about.
Yeah.
This mythology.
Call me.
Okay, let's talk. Let's talk Lilith, witches and demon babies.
Yeah, and then I think also, but nightgowns I think is also a part of that, right? Because it's, a space that you've been able to help cultivate in order to spawn demon babies.
Absolutely.
Demon drag babies.
That's the entire goal.
Okay, good. Okay. Do you want to read one of these?
Yeah, let's see.
Are we also over time? No one's here. Who cares?
Okay, this is a question for both of us.
Oh, okay, good.
From Tuggle, Cancer Sun, Gemini Rising, Virgo Moon. And they wish me a happy almost B-Day.
Oh my God, we don't! Wait,
also,
hold on. Can we do this?
And also to them as well.
Sasha's birthday is in 3 days.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sasha and her demon babies. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. That's so sweet. Thank you. Did I ask the question? No, I didn't. It was all the intro.
I interrupted you.
Okay. What is something you don't usually get the chance to talk about that you love to talk about, that you'd like to?
I mean, I kind of make sure I talk about whatever.
Yeah, my
a
one
bossy
interest
bitch.
I devoted my entire career to.
I wish more people, I guess, wanted to know about how we run our business, but enough to. But a lot of people just want to talk about, like, what do you say to people that don't believe in astrology?
Right.
When I get, like, interviewed or whatever.
That's a good one.
I wish they
yeah.
talked to me more about business.
Yeah, because it's like these
big
are
part of
new
it.
businesses
Yeah.
that are like drag and astrology.
Yeah.
They're serious and big and take a lot of.
Yeah.
What do you have wisdom as a business? Oh, you're a successful business owner.
I mean, I could talk about
entrepreneur.
business all day. I mean, it's really like my wife and I's passion is
Yeah.
all of our friends, they know that like we're always like, how's it going? How's the business? How much money are you making? What's going on? How's your benefits? Like, I think we should talk about money way more all the time than we do. I think we should talk about workplace, what it means to work, where you work, what it's like. I think we need to make everything like visible. I think we need to be really open about it. And one of our missions is to push the conversation about work, workplaces, work culture, and what it means to work somewhere where you feel like maybe you could thrive and like really like it. Like, it makes me so fucking sad to like the quiet quitting, and I get it. I really get it. And it's like, can we, like, we need to fuck this up. Like, we need to radically change it. People should feel alive and inspired at work. I think. I do. And I want that for everybody.
And I love that you work with your wife. I work with my partner,
I
Johnny.
know.
You're very complex, but
It's also like the best.
yeah, and it pushes you to be aware, I think,
Yeah.
of dynamics.
Yeah. We also had to like make her the CEO. Because I wasn't going to do it. I'm the president. She's the boss. I work for her, and so does everybody else. But yeah, it's an important part of our relationship.
Oh, there's a
Do
question
you have
for
another?
you, which I actually want to know about as
Okay.
well. If you did drag,
Oh my God.
what would your drag persona be like?
That is such a good question. When I was a teenager, I wanted to be a drag queen. I thought, like, if I reincarnate, I was like, I'm going to come back as a drag queen. I don't know why I thought I had to reincarnate. I also thought I had to be, like, 60 before I could have a lesbian relationship. So I had a lot of weird ideas.
Those are the only models you saw.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of lesbians around me, though. I don't know why I thought I had to wait. I was like, I got to do my time. And then I turned 19 and went traveling, and I was like, oh, no, I don't have to wait at all. That's fine. I don't know. Some kind of the horror, I think.
Ooh.
Some kind of, like, witch, like some not very nice, like a little edgy, a little scathing. I mean, I appreciate the screaming.
I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Edgy
like
and
someone who does not
scathing.
take care of other people.
Oh, I love that. I hope you find.
Thank you.
Bring a little of that to the day-to-day. Everyone needs to channel their drag personas.
I'll try it out at Purim.
Yes, exactly. My gosh, the main Jewish drag event from my childhood.
Exactly. Yes, we didn't even touch on Purim.
Yes, which
Yeah.
my favorite mythological thing about Purim is the rabbis say you're supposed to drink so much on Purim that you can no longer distinguish between good and evil.
Right.
And that's like a new heightened place of truth that you arrive to on the holiday. So
L'chaim.
see, L'chaim. Do you have a drag name?
Oh, no, I don't. Didn't we
Work on
find
that.
one? Wasn't there one we said would be a good drag name?
Black Moon Lilith.
Black Moon Lilith.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't want to, that's your style. I don't want to. Okay. I have this quote. We do not fear astrology in this house. Someone's quoting me. Do you have any advice on worrying with fear or dealing with the unknown? How do you deal with anxiety?
I feel like anxiety is like a important part of my practice and my creativity, and like I perform anxiety on stage sometimes. I feel like it's a part of the picture of life.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's information when you're feeling anxious about something. This is like interesting. I was like, will I go into my therapy? As you were talking
let's
earlier.
Go. We haven't cried yet.
I don't do that.
Challenge accepted. Okay.
God. Yeah, deep trauma there, but that's another story. That, like, not always trying to put an answer or, like, a conclusion to every feeling that you have. I feel like maybe that there's some, like, gender codes to that in our society, that it's like, okay, you have, like, a thought or a doubt or a worry. It's like, what is the solution to that? But actually trying to not find a solution and just say, like, okay, this is just a feature. This is one of the demons that I'm living with, and it's not a bad thing. It's just a part of the picture.
It's just a little
So,
demon.
yeah, and it can be of service.
That's sweet. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you have any others?
Okay, let me
Do we wrap
see.
this up? What do we do? They've left us alone.
I found one that I'm interested in. How do you strike a balance or harmonize artistry and academics?
How do you strike a balance or harmonize?
Yeah.
What in academics?
Artistry.
Artistry and
And
academics.
academics.
I don't see them as separate.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the academics enriches the artistry and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's only
I
balance
love driving
between
myself
them.
like bananas with like learning something.
Yeah.
I get into like a total fit about not knowing enough, and then like overwhelming myself with information and studying everything about a subject, like all the things I don't need to know, and then like listening to everybody, like everything I can get my hands on about something, and like my spleen gets full and I get tired and I like moody, and my wife is like, oh my God, when are you gonna do the talk though? So like on the way to doing something, I just feel like I kind of like gorge on all the information that I can possibly get a hold of, and then like overwrite it, overstudy it, overthink it, and then kind of like let it all go and see what happens.
And it just like comes together.
Yeah, I dream it. You know, the ninth house is also about dreaming. It's about psychic dreaming and healing dreaming. And so what happened is, so Sasha and I this is the first time we've met IRL, but I had a conversation with a mutual friend of ours a couple of days ago, and then I went home and I dreamt about you. And we met in my dream and we talked about Lilith.
Oh my gosh.
And I wanted to tell you like today or whatever, but I was like, I wanted to save it, but I just remembered it. So we had this whole, we like hung out, we were like trying on clothes, we were talking about Lilith, we were like hanging out in the bed. It was great. I was like, oh my God, that was such a ninth house experience.
Wow.
So do you have that? Do you have because your Mercury is also super potent. It's by the fixed star Sirius, which is like a really kind of special configuration. You were born as it was stationing retrograde, like just days after it stationed retrograde. And so it's like a really bright evening star. And so my teacher, Demetra, will call that an underworld Mercury, so that it's a Mercury that Madonna has it. She loves to go into the underworld and seek out underworld themes. Because what happens in the Mercury cycle is right as it stations retrograde, it's really bright in the evening sky, and then it slowly goes invisible because it gets closer to the sun, and then it reemerges as the morning star. So the ancients thought, oh, it's going into the underworld, and it's getting some like whole situation and like transformation, and then it is reborn in the morning. So you're born just as it stations and is about to go into this really in-depth kind of investigation. And when you were 20, by progression, it stationed direct. Did anything really special happen like 2021?
Just really bad decisions and unhealthy behavior. Is that what you mean?
We can talk about it later. But your Mercury is also conjunct the asteroid Cassandra. And Cassandra was the one who was gifted with the sight, but nobody believed her. So it's kind of like having a lot of foresight and being able to see the future, but no one around you kind of understands. So I didn't know if also you had experienced that, or if that's also what drag is. It's just like fortune telling.
Yeah, telling the truth and
Yes.
screaming into the abyss.
Yeah.
And making
Resonates?
it art so you don't go crazy.
Something, something.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they've come with the sheep's hooks.
It is time. Everyone, please thank Chani and Sasha for their time this evening.
We came as sun and moon.
Thank you for coming, everyone. Get home safely.